You are live.
Craig, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you see me?
No.
How do I do that?
There's a start video
Yeah.
button, and the iPad's in a different place than the others.
Okay, I got it.
Looks like your camera's covered up.
Because it's in the iPad case. Oh, there we go. There we go. Whoops. Are you there?
Yep.
Okay, but I'm not. There we are. Yeah, I like the other one better. There.
Mayor, it does not look safe that we can see the interior of your car. Are you stopped? I don't think he's got volume. Mayor, can you hear me? Mayor, can you hear us? I'm trying to get the mayor. I think we've got some technical issues with his phone connecting. So I'm trying to get some information from him on how he wants us to proceed. So I will be back with you momentarily.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay, good. I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good. You're good. I'm sure you're probably, obviously you're in your car, so I don't know that you have an agenda in front of you.
I do not.
Okay. I'm happy to kind of walk us through the agenda if you want me to do that.
Please do.
Okay. I think we've got everyone we thought we were going to have. We'll give Michelle just a second to get back to the screen since I told her it'd be a second. So when she gets back, we can get started.
Who all do we have here, Jenny?
I'm seeing as members Michelle on behalf of Chamber, Ronnie and Shelby on behalf of Council, and Stephanie. Can you hear us, Stephanie from CapFed? Stephanie, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay.
Very good. So I think you've got your membership that you need, and then on the staff side, you've got Les, Lance, myself, Dana, and Katie.
Okay.
First item was to approve the agenda, which Mayor, all that's included on here are minutes from the last meeting, a year-to-date CBB budget update, the concert discussion kind of carryover from last night's workshop that Katie will walk us through, and then some potential projects for investment of the CBB in 2020. Everybody good with that?
Yes, I'm good with that.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Next item is the actual approval of the minutes, which Dana included in the packet. She emailed everybody. And I believe you were all there, maybe not Michelle, but everyone else was there, I think. Anyone wants to make a motion or sees changes that need to be made?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Shelby. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. CBB budget year to date. That is page what is 3 of the packet? 4?
3. Well, page 4, yes.
Okay. Not a lot's been going on this year. So you're pretty similar situation to where you were before, having spent for just over $43,000 for the year. Or I'm sorry, that's your cash balance budgeted. Your cash balance actual right now is $186,000. Thank you, Lance, or whoever did that. So if you're able to see on the screen now, there is the year-to-date budget. Obviously, the food item's going to probably come in a little low this year. Summer concerts, we'll let Katie cover that item here in a second, but that may or may not be low this year. And then the hotel vouchers, I don't think I've got anyone from the hotels here. Those have really slowed down a lot, which may be indicative of the world we live in right now. And there's just not that many people staying at the hotels, but we really have not been receiving very many of those. So I'm curious to hear from Holiday Inn and Days Inn in a follow-up email how business is for them. Any questions about the budget year to date? Okay. Katie, why don't you walk us through the conversation that the City Council had last night on the 2020 concerts and how those scenarios kind of play out?
Sure thing. Before I start, I just want to remind everybody this is a public meeting. So even though I think most of us know who the artists we're looking at are, we're just going to keep it to the artists, and we're not going to actually say names because we haven't announced anything. So just a reminder of that. So last night at the workshop, I presented these 4 scenarios to the council. Scenario one being we don't have any concerts, we don't have any cap fed funding because we don't have concerts, no sponsorships, and no concert fees at all. But we do have some fixed spending that the amphitheater covers, which is some of the Wi-Fi in the park, and then music licenses that we have for the whole year. So it's about 16,000, which we would then use 16,000 of the CVB's 75,000 that's budgeted to create a break-even point for that. Scenario two would be was if we were going to just have the October concert and we held it. We would keep a third of the cap fed funding ideally because we had 1/3 of the concerts, and then all the sponsorships we've gotten so far, which is about 20,000 committed. And then we estimated about 30,000 in ticket sales for that. That's about 1,200 people in the GA section. And then the extra revenue from that is sales tax that would cover our sales tax that we have to pay for that. And then we'd pay for the artists' fees for that, marketing expenses, and then of course other concert expenses, temporary restrooms, labor, security, transportation, supplies, things like that. And then of course Wi-Fi and music license still. So with that scenario, we anticipated needing to spend 66,000 of the 75,000 from CVB. Scenario three was if we were going to have the October concert, but for some reason we had to cancel it at any given point. At that point, we would anticipate having to pay the artist fees because we'd have a signed contract, and our marketing would have been done at that point for the most part. The only other costs would be insurance, which is what that 5,000 is. That's about what the quote is. And then of course, Wi-Fi and music license. So given that we were looking at 103,000 in expenses, we'd exhaust the CVB funding with the 75,000, and we'd still come out about $30,000 deficit, which is where we were last year, given everything. So we've definitely run a deficit with the concerts before, and generally we do. And we have some, that's what the CVB was funding was initially and has been intended for, is to cover that gap. And then scenario four would be if we decided to have both the August and the October concert and we had to cancel them both, which is sort of a lot worst case scenario. Again, the artist fees and marketing and insurance would be double with that quotes. So we're looking at, with the CVB funding, in that case, it'd be $108,000 deficit. So after discussion with the council, they decided they wanted to move forward with both concerts, but we're trying to reschedule the August show because everybody felt August was a little too soon. So we're looking at September. As an update that I just got this morning, that artist's agent would rather us move to 2021 instead of September. So I don't, Jenny and Lance, I don't know how we want to, or Mayor and Shelby, I guess, I don't know how we want to proceed with that, but they would prefer us to move it to 2021.
My reaction is,
Yeah, I'm very comfortable with it going to 2021. And I think, we attempted to move it and we said it was going to be a best effort basis for that one. So I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay. So we'll work on that then for 2021. So it looks like what we're going to end up doing is going to be more scenario three now. Because we'll move that to 2021 and then we're going to push forward with the October show. Well, I guess that would be scenario two, excuse me, not scenario three, because right now we don't anticipate canceling the show, obviously. But so 2 or 3 is looks like where it's going to end up for the year. So most likely we will be spending most of that budget line item for CBB this year. And as I have more updates from the concerts planning and everything. I think the next time we meet is, I think, August, maybe July or August. So I'll have more updates on that front at that point.
And Stephanie, just to let you know, we have not spoken to Cap Fed yet about, obviously this was just in the last hour or so that we learned that we'd be down to one concert for 2020. So the contract doesn't explicitly say that we only get a third of the money or something like this, but we want to be goodwill partners on this, acknowledging that we're not bringing near as many people to the facility as we would have in a typical year. So we'll have that conversation with Becky and Patrick here directly now that we've got a little bit more of a plan in pencil. No plans are in ink anymore, but a little bit better of a plan to present to them. So that's kind of where that's coming from, but we're just putting that out there for the CVB and the city council to somewhat acknowledge that may or may not be fair or reasonable to really expect the full $75,000 if we're only going to do one show.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any questions about, obviously COVID is what has driven all of this change. I mean, I don't think we started with that, but I think it's an implied understanding. So any questions or concerns about amphitheater programming before we move on to the projects? Okay. With that, I think, Katie, you've done a lot of the legwork on these next projects as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about the video quotes that we got back? I know we talked about this project a little bit at the last meeting, so maybe a reminder of that CGI information as well.
Sure. So CGI was the group that we had the conference call with at the last meeting, and their price for their product was free. And we would just look for local business sponsorships is how that would work. They get to advertise on the page and everything. But we also got some quotes from On Tap Media, which is a local organization here. They're part of the chamber. KWCH, which is a partner for our concerts this year, and Miller Design, which I think is just a contact that Jenny has. So we've got different quotes for that. On Tap Media is the most expensive at $6,000. All of the proposals are included in the packet as well, so we can go over that too, but just want to show the different prices here. KWCH has two different options, sort of an all-in fee and then sort of a hourly fee. And then Miller Design would be $3,500 coming in. I think the budget line has $4,000 in there for this project. So if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 4,000.
7,500. So they're all.
Oh, my bad. I read the wrong line then. So they all come under that then. So we'll just go through the proposals individually. So the first one is On Tap Media. And I met with Eric way back, probably, I think it was either March. No, yeah, it would have been March, February or March. And sort of talked about what our goal for this project is, you know, of highlighting the city, bringing tourists in, you know, keeping locals local, and really showing what Andover has to offer. And so he came up with this pretty in-depth proposal of what the video would look like, you know, targeting young families, because that's pretty much what we determine people who live in Andover is mostly young families. And, you know, the story of that Andover is not just a place to live, It's a place to make memories, and, you know, find your place. So this really highlights the different aspects of Andover, you know, our different recreation activities, the schools, the amphitheater, and all of that. And he did a pretty good job of putting it all together. Obviously, this requires a lot of filming of activities that are happening in Andover, which obviously this year's a little different. You know, this proposal was made pre-COVID. So, you know, when he says down, if anyone's looking at it down where it says the subject's a young female, the phrase is, "This is my place to dance." You know, filming at the Dance Academy, or filming in 13th Street Park, or learning the community college, you know, Spalding's, all of that. We might need to adjust some of that based on what's happening in our timeline if we go forward with this, you know, in terms of the concerts or, you know, school activities, all of that. So budget is $6,000, which covers everything. He did include an example of a YouTube video that was sort of what he's sort of going for in there, if anybody wants to take a look at that. 50% deposit before we start, and then he did say he's willing to, you know, work with us to update anything that we don't like after it's filmed or anything like that. And then he was talking about highlighting maybe local musician too. Tommy Newport is, he's from Andover, and he's on the up and up, from what I'm told and what I've researched. He's on the up and up. He's just got a major agent and things like that. So he lines it out pretty well for us. So that was a pretty good deal. And then KWCH's proposal is not as in depth, but the first offer, they estimate 32 hours of production, which is where that cost of $4,000 comes from, you know, to shoot anything for us and build it out. And then also that includes the planning with us to put it all together, and the script, and a graphic designer and everything with that. Up to 5 minutes in the video, which same for on tap would be about 5 minutes. When I met with him, I said, you know, right now we have two. We have a 30-minute one and a 5-minute one. We just want to do the 5-minute one. And then KWCH's other one would be by the hour. Most of it, I believe for that one, we would provide what we have, and then they would, you know, like in terms of drone footage, and then they would use what they could this year in filming. I think that was part of that. That was the implied plan of, from concerts this year, we'll get some filming done, which now looks like it won't be till October. So maybe that's not the route we want to go. I don't know. That's definitely a discussion to have. And then from Miller Design is just a quote. There's not really much of a, you know, detailed proposal, but I think my understanding from that is that, you know, again, we'll all work together with whoever we choose to come up with concept and script and all of that. So I think at this point, it's really just a discussion of, you know, who we want to go with, and then moving forward from there.
One thing I would say too, and maybe these all should be considered in kind of concert, you know, we've got in your budget, if you go back to that, you've got $7,500 for the video. I would agree with the direction Katie was going in that maybe this isn't the year at all to shoot videos. So then there's a question of, do you want to, like, I think some of them require a deposit. So do you want to engage in an agreement, but have them do the actual video footage next year? I don't know what October's concert looks like, but if it's 6 feet in between people in line at the bathroom, that's not like quite the same fun environment as when everyone's just slammed in together at concerts. If we have a limit on how many people we can have attend, it may look kind of sparse in the large amphitheater lawn compared to what it could look like when you get 5,000 or 6,000 people in there. So I think that's a consideration. You also had $4,000 in there for the destination web app, which was it last meeting, I believe, that we talked about that a little bit, highlighting the restaurants through Facebook and their own posts and things like that. And I believe at that time we kind of tabled that one, but between those two, you've got 11,500, and then you have no budget for this next item, C-Source product. And maybe Katie, if you want to talk about that, that would be another way to maybe use that 11.5 if it's interesting, and maybe the timing's wrong for all of it, but put all your options out there for you to consider.
Yeah, sure. So C-Source, I put together a little memo, and then Lance has what they sent over up on the screen. So they are a software company that has spending data or access to the spending data of different regions. So they work with destination marketing organizations to figure out who the visitors are, where they come from, and basically use that to try to attract more visitors. And so they have, they use geolocation and spending data. I met with one of their salespeople, Candy, via phone. I think probably now, it was probably about a month ago or so. And she walked me through a little bit of it. The quote she gave me is a very generalized quote based only on population. And so she said it'd probably start about 1,000 a month or 12,000 annually. They typically do annual contracts, but obviously in the current situation that we're in, they're flexible, and they work with a lot of tourism organizations, and so they've been adjusting to that. But basically what the packages are is they use the cell phone data, the geolocation on cell phone to say where who's coming in and where they're spending. My understanding was that they do it by zip code, which for Andover, we just have the one zip code, but they don't necessarily break it down into the individual categories. So they would say, hey, all these visitors, from, Wichita cell phone numbers came to Andover. But on their platform, you can break it down into categories like that, but they don't do it right away. And so the geolocation's just by zip code. And I think it's zip code that they come to, as opposed to zip code they were coming from, because I don't think you can get that on your cell phone. And then from what I also understood is that the actual credit card transaction data is a separate cost. So she didn't give me that pricing. So that's something we would follow up with them on. But from what I understand, it would just be the geolocation that would start at that $1,000 a month data, and then figuring out where the spending data would tell us where they're spending the money. If they're spending it mostly at our restaurants, or if they're mostly spending it at our concert, or anything like that. And their monthly reports in real time. So I don't know that helps us this year again, because I don't know that a lot of people are spending money necessarily. Again, we have to figure that all out. But They did talk about, one of the things she was highlighting to me was that they are working with the state, with Bridget at the tourism office, about doing a matching program possibly. In which case, whatever the state agreed to pay, let's say 30%, they would match that too. And so ultimately then the city or the DMO, which is the CVB for us, would only pay for 40% of that cost. So, the state would pay for 30, C-Source would basically waive 30% of the fee. And then we would only be required for 40%. That's not necessarily in place in Kansas right now, but again, they're working on it to see what that looks like. So, I mean, after meeting with Candy, my impression was, I don't know that this is necessarily useful for us, especially this year, but it's definitely something I think we could look into further if it's something, because I know we want to know where people are going. We want to know what's driving people to Andover so that we can target that a little bit better.
Any thoughts on any of that?
I think I would agree
So
that. Go ahead.
Okay. So the zip code thing won't tell you where they came from. So it won't tell you, like we had people come from northern Kansas or anything. So it'll be both what locals are spending their cash on as well as visitors, right?
That's how I understood it, yes. Because I don't believe that you can get someone's zip code from their cell phone geolocation data.
I think they might be able to get state and county. This is super Big Brother, but it does say on their flyer, visitor points of origin on both macro, state, county, and micro zip code level. So
okay.
I would think a point of origin would mean, I would think, where they came from.
I think we could get that from the credit card transaction data. So I don't know if that's what that means. And I could be completely misunderstanding what she had said on the phone about the credit card. That could be included. But from when I was talking to her and trying to clarify what she was saying, it was my impression that the credit card spending was an additional fee. So I don't know what fee that looks like. She didn't quote me on that part.
My concern with the video creation, and Jenny, you said this too, and the visualization data is just, I don't know that this year's going to be a very good indication. So like you said, the concert, we don't know what October is going to look like. There's talk of a second wave. And so if we put the deposit down, we're risking maybe being out that money because there's a chance that we won't have a concert, or if we do, like you said, the spacing and stuff. So I would agree that maybe the video, this isn't maybe the year for the video.
Yeah, I would say that the visitor analytics, especially, I think that would be a really good idea for us, but maybe not this year, just because I'm sure that data is going to be skewed if we were to start it anytime soon. So maybe that's something that we look at next year once we see when things are kind of more normal.
I would say, is it something that you guys are interested in doing a demo with them on? Because I can set that up for our, August, I think it's August meeting, for everybody to have a demo, and they can go into more detail about it, to for us to help make a decision for possibly next year.
Sure, I think that would be a good idea. I would be open for that.
I agree.
And maybe continue to hold on the restaurant promotion too, and kind of just maybe build that into your 2021 budget as an option of something you could do next year when hopefully we're closer to what we used to know as normal.
Right, yeah, I would say so.
The good news is those bids came in at a point where I think that we weren't too far off on how we budgeted for that. So I think, you know, it's doable. It's just a timing thing.
Right, yeah. And I really, on the video proposals, I really like that On Tap Media put out that little, that nice scenario or example for us, because it's kind of hard to get a grasp on some of the other ones of what we're going to be getting. I wouldn't want it to look too, because KWCH, I feel like maybe it would maybe look a little too newsy since that's what they do. So I don't know. We'll probably, I'm sure we'll wait on that one just because it, like you said, Jenny, our concerts and stuff aren't going to look too impressive at this point. But I did really like that they included that to give us an idea of what it would look like.
And if you go to the OnTap Media website, you can see some pretty good examples of videos they've done in the past on, you know, for privates, businesses and whatnot. So you get a pretty good idea of their level of production quality as well.
It was neat that they pulled in a local celebrity, if you will, too. I thought that was kind of a nice touch. Okay, so the energy on this meeting is a little low. I'm really sorry. I feel like usually the CVB is a fun group to get together. We get to have lunch and see each other, and this has been a little bit difficult, like many meetings, to do over Zoom. We do have an item for other business, so is there anything else anyone's wanting to talk about, or? Okay, well, it's been lovely. We will be in touch. It's a strange time for all. Katie's had to, I think her head's been on swivel more than anyone else's around here, maybe just trying to figure out, are we doing something? Are we not doing something? So we're all learning a lot of flexibility, as I know you all are too.
Yeah, most of my communication has been, I'll let you know as soon as I know something. Stay tuned.
So come August, we'll know more. And one thing we did talk about in the council workshop last night was, obviously, I think somebody mentioned, maybe Stephanie, a second potential round of this terrible virus. You know, so certainly we may know more if that's becoming more of a rumor or feeling more like an actual. So we'll just continue to monitor both the economic, the government guidelines in terms of mass gatherings, and then certainly the health situation as we move forward towards a October show.
And Jenny, I don't know if you want to bring that up at all, like in your items today at the council meeting or anything, just so the whole council knows now.
Yep.
Or I guess, you know, Mayor or Shelby, you could as well. But that way everyone's on the same page.
Yes, I think that would be great if either of you want to bring that up, or I do, whatever, but I think it would be nice to fill them back in since things changed in 24 hours.
I vote for Shelby.
There you go.
Sure, why not?
All right. Well, I think, I guess we typically have a motion to adjourn. So would anyone like to make that?
I'll motion to adjourn.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for helping me out, Jenny. I appreciate it. I'll be more prepared next time.
I didn't hear much of that, but I'm not sure if anyone else did.
No, couldn't quite hear that one, but I think he just said everybody's doing a great job and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thank you, Shelby. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.